can have a seat. Everyone have a good evening last night? Yes. Good, good. You guys are so efficient. You show up on time and everything. I had another matter I had to handle prior to bringing you guys in. Are there any witnesses, further witnesses on behalf of the state?
Yes, Your Honor. The next witness is Dr. Jeremy Bauer.
There's a little maze you have to come around here. I should put yellow tape. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear affirm under penalty of perjury your testimony in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Have a seat. Pull yourself up close to the microphone.
Thank you.
You may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. In a loud, clear voice, can you please tell us your first and last name, spelling both for the record?
Jeremy Bauer, Jeremy Bauer.
What is your profession?
I am a forensic injury biomechanist and accident reconstructionist.
I think you're going to have to explain that to us as you go along.
I will do that.
Okay. So, may I call you Dr. Bauer?
Yes.
And can you take us through the qualifications you have, first starting with your education?
Yes. Do you want me to display what's on?
Dr. Bauer, have you prepared a PowerPoint to go along with some video input? Would that help your testimony today?
I have it. Yes, it would.
You can try to, we need to switch over, please, Rachel. Do you need to be in slide mode, or is this okay?
This is great.
Okay. So I asked you about your education, if you could share that with us.
Yeah, so I earned a Bachelor of Science degree in 1997 from Boise State University in the field of physical education with an emphasis in biomechanics. I then went to Oregon State University where I earned a master's degree that was completed in 2001. And then I stayed at Oregon State University where I completed a PhD, and both of those in the fields of human performance with a focus on the field of biomechanics.
So can you tell us what is biomechanics?
Yeah, so biomechanics is essentially the study of human movement and the forces that cause the movement. Sometimes people will hear the word kinesiology, but it's essentially looking at kinematics, so studying the motion of humans, and kinetics, the forces that cause those motions and the forces that act on the body.
What are some of the tools that you use to do those studies?
Yeah, so to study human motion, we essentially have to record human motion. So you use pictures, video cameras, motion capture systems. So there's a lot of overlap in actually the development of motion capture technology that's used in movies was developed in biomechanics labs studying human motion. On top of that, we'll typically use then the tools that have been developed basically from the development of physics and engineering principles to use those motions of the human body to be able to calculate then forces. So we look at arms, hands, other limbs, just like structures on a bridge or cranes. So it's basically applying physics and engineering principles to a biological system.
So does that mean that you have physics and engineering background in your studies?
Yes.
Are you certified in anything?
Yes, so I have several different certifications. This line of work in consulting in forensic reconstructions requires certification, doesn't require certification, but it certainly helps to be able to have proficiencies in, for one, I'm a certified drone pilot, so be able to document large aerial scenes. I use drones. I'm a certified forensic photographer through the International Association for Identification. I'm an accredited accident reconstructionist through ACTAR, which stands for the Accreditation Commission for Traffic Accident Reconstruction. And then I have a CXLT certification, which is that I'm certified to evaluate the kind of friction and slipperiness properties of walkways. So I have a lot of cases that involve slip and falls, trip and falls, feet interacting with the ground.
In your field, do you have any professional affiliations?
Yeah, quite a lot of professional affiliations. One is the International Society of Biomechanics. Another is ACTAR, which I had just mentioned, the Society of Automotive Engineers I'm a member of. I'm on 5 different committees through the ASTM, which is an organization that basically helps develop standard practices for various fields to follow.
What does ASTM stand for?
It stands for the American Society for Testing Materials. So 5 of those committees are listed up here. One on forensic sciences, one in forensic engineering, one that focuses on pedestrian walkway safety, one that looks at consumer products. So anything that, as far as my field relates, playground safety, equipment, things that people interact with. And then exoskeletons and exosuits, which has a subset of human factors and ergonomics. Then I'm also a member of the Institute of Transportation Engineers, and member of the Law Enforcement and Emergency Services Video Association International, or LEVA. I'm an active member of the Washington Association of Technical Accident Investigators. And I mentioned briefly the International Association for Identification.
You told us about your education and your certifications. Can you just take us through your experience?
Yeah, so when I was working in, when I was working on my master's degree at Oregon State University, I started working for a consulting firm that focused solely in forensic injury biomechanics called Hayes and Associates. That was in December of 1999 when I started working in forensics. And we started with cases at looking why someone's orthopedic implants fail, but also shooting incident reconstructions in car crashes. And slip, trip, and fall dynamics. And as part of that process, when we're looking at cases where people are slipping and tripping and falling or driving and getting involved in crashes, involves visibility analysis. So what can someone see before something happens? And then specifically using video-based analyses to help understand that. On top of that, I've published literature from the research that I have performed with other colleagues in the peer-reviewed journals, presented at major conferences. Over these last 25 years, I've testified both in state and federal court, and I've been retained quite routinely on both sides, so to speak, the plaintiff and defense sides, working in cases that are both criminal cases and civil cases.
You said you've testified in both state and federal courts. Which states have you testified in?
Testified in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, California, Delaware, Illinois, here in Ohio. That's all I can recall as far as trial testimony goes at this moment.
And then federal courts you mentioned. Which courts would those have been?
I don't recall specifically. I know Oregon. Actually, I'm not sure which ones were federal and state.
In this case, you have actually been retained by the state of Ohio, is that correct?
Yes.
And were you provided with materials to review in your analysis in this case?
Yes.
With respect to the areas that you've told us are your background, can you explain a little bit more? First of all, what would be ballistics or shooting reconstruction?
Yeah, that's anything looking at an incident that involves a shooting or some sort of projectile that's involved.
And then fall dynamics, what would that be?
Yeah, so that's looking specifically at how people fall. So whether it's a trip and fall or being pushed off of something or just sliding off of something. So anything that has to do with people falling and the impact forces associated.
In the cases that you said you've testified in, were you allowed to express opinions and conclusions based on your education, training, and experience in the fields of biomechanics and human performance?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time I would ask that Dr. Bauer be permitted to express his opinions and conclusions to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty in the fields of human performance, biomechanics.
Okay.
So, Dr. Bauer, when you were retained for this case, were there tasks that you were assigned or requested to do?
Yes.
And can you share with us what that would be?
Yeah, so and with any reconstruction or any case or any research question or research project, there are certain mysteries or questions that people want answered. And in this case, specifically the questions that I had sought to answer based on what I had learned about the case and the materials I received are what we see up on the screen here. Would you like me to read those?
Yes.
Yeah, so the first question that I was asked to answer was Officer Grubb directly in the path of the Lexus when the vehicle was pulling out of the parking space? Second question, was Officer Grubb in the path of the Lexus at the time the fatal shot struck Takaya or Ms. Young? The third question, was Officer Grubb in a spot where he could watch for hints about any potential movement of the Lexus? Fourth question, were Officer Grubb's actions that were observed in video leading up to the shooting and after firing the shot consistent with Officer Grubb anticipating the movement of that vehicle? And then the final question was, how did Officer Grubb sustain the wounds documented after the incident?
Did you receive materials in order to address those questions?
I did.
Did those materials include video?
Yes.
Did you ultimately author a report with respect to the questions that you just went through with us?
I did.
And then I think you also issued a supplemental report in this case.
Yes.
In conjunction with your original report, did you also provide electronically any video that you had synchronized?
I did.
And if you're using video today throughout your testimony, would it be from that video that was provided along with your report?
Yes.
In order to address the questions that you just went through with us, are there different types of evidence that you need to examine?
Yes, there are.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, typically there's two general types of evidence. There's objective evidence, and that's typically evidence that's based on facts that can be verified through observation, measurement, and reliable sources. So that includes video. So it's something we can't really argue with. It's video or photographs or physical measurements that were taken or crash data that have been downloaded from a car. And then there's a secondary source of evidence, which is considered subjective evidence. So that's evidence that's more influenced by someone's experiences or their personal feelings or their independent recollection of an incident, but can't be independently verified. And so that consists of statements or sworn testimony.
Did you receive in this case a statement of Officer Grubb as part of what you would call subjective evidence?
I did.
And do you have examples of subjective evidence that you did review in this case?
I do. Yeah, so again, oftentimes when answering these questions using the objective evidence, the purpose is to always, of course, evaluate the subjective evidence. So what does someone recall happening, and basically comparing the subjective evidence and the subjective recollection to what we know we can verify through the objective means. So some of those sort of testable subjective evidence examples from Officer Grubb's statement are included on this slide. The first one, where he wrote, "I tried to move to my right, parentheses, east, to avoid being struck, but the front bumper of the car hit my legs/shins. When it hit me, I leaned forward and placed my left hand on the hood of the car to brace myself in an effort to not fall to the ground and be run over." A second sentence or second quote, "Suddenly, my feet were completely off the ground and my waist was on the hood of the car, and my body was being carried by the car as she continued accelerating. It was at that moment that I fired one round through the windshield."
And did both of those separate statements come from the same typed statement of Connor Grubb that you were provided?
Yes.
With respect to the objective evidence, is that video in this case primarily?
Yes,
And in this case, did you obtain different types of video to analyze?
I did.
And can you take us through what video you were provided with in order to do your analysis?
Yeah, I was provided with more than four different sources of video, but there were four sources of video that recorded or partially recorded the incident. And there were two sources from body-worn camera footage. So Officer Grubb and Officer Moynihan both were wearing and recording from body-worn cameras. And then there was security camera footage from the Kroger store. In particular, there was a parking lot directed camera and another camera that was near the RX walk-up, so near the pharmacy area.
Did you also receive, as part of the materials, photographs that had been taken on August 24th, 2023 of Officer Connor Grubb?
Yes,
And also photographs for Sergeant Moynihan?
yes,
Did you use those photographs in the analysis that you'll be talking about today?
I did.
If you could go through them, on the screen right now is some of the video that you've listed. So tell us, I don't know if you can make that any bigger.
I can make it bigger. We can step through the larger examples here.
Okay. So what are you telling us here with this slide, Dr. Bauer?
So here I'm just pointing out a couple key features. So this is one still frame from Officer Grubb's body-worn camera footage. And it's always important in these things that when we're using video evidence, we know where the camera is. So I've identified the location where his camera would have been mounted, so below his eyes and on the left side of his chest. And so, what you see in the camera is not always necessarily what he's going to see with his eyes. So that's always an important distinction here. But from his body-worn camera footage, we do get to see quite a lot of information. We can see his hand, his left hand right now on the hood. This particular slide is actually the moment that the bullet defect shows up in the windshield. So you can see that in the upper right-hand corner over here. And then we can also, from the camera footage, see clearly inside the vehicle. So we can see Miss Young, we can see her hands. And then here's a still frame from Sergeant Moynihan's body-worn camera. Same thing, so he actually has a camera mount on a different location, so he's a little lower and on the right. But then this is, again, just to show that he could partially see Officer Grubb toward the front of the vehicle. Then we get, first just show you where the cameras from the Kroger store are located.
And for the record, I believe this is the state's Exhibit 36. Have you added then the labels and arrows to this photograph?
Yes.
So can you explain what you've noted in the photo?
Yeah, so I've noted the parking space where the Lexus had been parked at the time of the incident or just before the incident. I pointed out the final rest position of the Lexus. But importantly, for what we're talking about right now, I've just annotated the location of those security cameras. So the parking lot camera that we're going to look at some footage is located just above the front entrance, and then the RX walk-up is located closer to the pharmacy area there.
When you were reviewing the video from the Kroger, the parking lot video, and the RX walk-up video, were you able to locate Officer Grubb within those two different views?
Yes.
And the same question for Sergeant Eric Moynihan.
Yes.
If you could show us then from the video some things that you had noted, and would this be what has been called the parking lot video?
Yes.
So that's just a title. Do these videos from Kroger have file names?
Yes.
And are they, in your experience, from that Bosch system?
Yes.
So when you were analyzing the video from both the Kroger parking lot and RX walk-up, throughout your report, did you note which video that you were referring to?
Yes.
And although we don't call it by whatever the Bosch extension is, we can talk about it using parking lot versus RX walk-up. I think that would be easier. Okay.
Sounds great.
So which view is this, Dr. Bauer?
Yeah, so I'll jump back up. This is the view from the parking lot, the camera labeled parking lot, which is located near the front entrance. So we're looking sort of at and we'll watch the video, but we're looking at the back of the Lexus. We can see Officer Grubb to our right and Sergeant Moynihan to the left, and they're both obscured partially by the Lexus from this standpoint. And then this is a screenshot from the RX walk-up camera. So now we're looking, and they're smaller, so we're looking at Officer Grubb, and we can see Sergeant Moynihan, and here we actually get a full view of Officer Grubb, and we can see the front end of the Lexus. And we see a couple other features here, including a child pushing a shopping cart through the parking lot, and then another car that's approaching here.
With respect to this video analysis, what questions were you addressing as you reviewed these 4 types of videos?
Yeah, so the first kind of round of questions that we can answer just by looking at the videos here was the first one. Was Officer Grubb directly in the path of the Lexus when the vehicle was pulling out of the parking space? And so when we just look at the objective evidence of the video, if someone is standing in the front of a vehicle that's moving forward and to the right, was he in that path? And the answer is yes, he's in that path. The second question, was Officer Grubb in the path of the Lexus at the time of the fatal shot struck Takaya? And upon reviewing the video, and we saw the one still shot of the moment that the defect was put in the windshield, the answer to this question is no, he was not in the path of the vehicle at the time he fired the gun and shot Ms. Young. With respect to this third question here, was Officer Grubb in a spot where he could watch for hints about any potential movement of the Lexus? And that answer is yes. And we noted I pointed out from the first still shot we saw from Officer Grubb's body-worn camera footage that he can see inside the vehicle, and he can see Ms. Young's hands when they're above the steering wheel or at the sides of the steering wheel.
I'm going to check at this point in time, Ron, may we approach?
You may.
Dr. Bauer, with respect to specifically Officer Connor Grubb's body-worn camera, when you were saying what could be seen, are you referring to what Officer Grubb's body-worn camera was recording?
Yes.
And then you did note, to be fair, at the beginning that it was mounted lower on his chest and his eye line.
Correct.
Did you also, though, have the type statement of Officer Connor Grubb to clarify, in his words, what his visual aspect of seeing into that car would have been.
Yes.
And what was that?
I have that, actually had that quote on one of my slides, and he had written that my backdrop was the interior of the suspect's car. My target was the suspect's center of mass. I only fired one shot because I was no longer on the hood of the car. But the statement indicated that his backdrop was the interior of the suspect's car, and his target was her center of mass, implying that he could see her center of mass and inside the car.
If you could go to a slide where you can see inside the car and see Takaya. Is this from the body-worn camera of Officer Grubb?
Yes.
And can you see Takaya Young
Yes.
in that photo?
Yes.
So in addressing the 3 questions that you shared with us, was it necessary for you, or did you decide to synchronize the 4 videos that you were provided with?
Yes, I did, and it was.
Take us through how you do that.
Yeah, essentially, you look through all the different video sources. Well, you first typically use specialized software for forensic video analysis. I use a software package called Axon Investigate. It basically lets you take the most raw form of the video and step frame by frame very carefully. A lot of video players these days will do some sort of smoothing or some kind of compression to make it viewable. But this doesn't. You get the raw source. You then basically watch the videos and look for common events. So that could be a foot strike, a heel strike. So right when someone's taking a step with their right foot, the moment you see that hit the ground in one field of view or one camera, if you can see it in another camera, then you can line those moments up in time on a timeline in video editing software. Or you can note the frame number and then basically put them side by side at that moment. So you do that with all the sources of video that you can. And then put them all on a timeline so that you can look at them all together. And this footage here had many examples of foot strikes that are easily matchable. Actually, the body-worn camera footage, we could see the lights on in the patrol vehicle. So when you see a light flash, that's a nice short burst item to be able to line up with.
Let me ask you about this frame-to-frame that you're using on the Axon Investigate. If I'm playing on VLC and I'm hitting the E key or the space bar, is that frame by frame?
I think the E key does go frame by frame. With Axon, the great thing is you can also step backward, but you can't do that with VLC player.
When I'm just using a common video tool on my Surface Pro, is it going to give me the frame number?
No.
Okay. And is that one of the advantages of using this Axon Investigate?
Yes.
So if you can show us then how you were able to synchronize the 4 videos.
Yeah, so I've got up here, and I'm gonna, hopefully we'll see if there's much lag to it as it goes through the system here, but I've got the 4 videos up on the screen here on the upper left-hand corner. Actually, let me just go forward a bit here. We have Sergeant Moynihan's body-worn camera footage up here. We have Officer Grubb's body-worn camera footage on the right, upper right. On the left, we have a cropped-in version of the RX walk-up camera footage. Or sorry, that was on the left, lower left. And on the bottom right, we have a kind of cropped-in version of the parking lot camera footage.
When you say cropped in, what does that mean?
Basically, instead of showing the full frame or focusing in on the events of interest for this case.
Now, does this segment of the 4 synchronized videos help address the questions you just shared with us?
Yes.
And is there any way to dim any of the lights around?
That's big.
Oh, wow, nice.
Does that help, Dr. Bauer?
That is beautiful, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Rachel. Okay, so can Can you show us how these 4 synchronized videos helped you address the questions you just shared with us?
Yeah, and so first and foremost, it's overwhelming to have so much information in our sight lines with 4 videos trying to play at once. So one of the really key things to remember when doing any video analysis, even as we're watching it here in the courtroom, is that we have to look at it for a while and look at it over and over and over again to recognize patterns. It's very similar to video review or instant replay that referees need to do in football games. So you need to watch it over and over again, over and over, to look for patterns. So for that first question of whether Officer Grubb was in front of the vehicle, in the path of the vehicle when it first started moving. So I want you to focus first on his body-worn camera footage in the upper right here. So this gives us the vantage point. I'm going to just come over here. That shows us he's standing in front of the car. His body-worn camera is on his left chest, but we see the headlight for the Lexus on the bottom right here. So he's in front of the right side of the car here. If I then come over and I'm going to try to zoom in here. You can see my cursor. I'm circling where Officer Grubb is. We can actually see the headlight on the right here. We see the headlight on the left, and we see him standing right in front of the vehicle before it starts to move. So very clear video objective evidence that he's standing in front of the vehicle before it starts to move. And actually we see a little bit of movement. We actually see him stepping toward the vehicle. Let's see how laggy this is. See him step toward the vehicle before it even starts moving. And then as it's moving, he is in front of it. So that's that first question. Oops, that's very large. Pop that back down. So that answers that first question. We can see it, test it with video evidence. The second question then was Officer Grubb in the path of the Lexus at the time the fatal struck Takaya. We know there's only one shot fired in this. So when we look back at the video footage, I won't say the only, but the best video evidence showing when that shot was struck, we actually will see it in Officer Grubb's body-worn camera footage here. So I'm going to zoom into this. I'm going to drag our slider. Actually, come over. So here. So now we see the bullet hole in the window, the bullet defect. And if we zoom out, and now we go down to our synchronized video source, and we zoom in to Officer Grubb's position, we can now see both headlights to the left of him, and he's no longer in the path of the field of the vehicle when that shot was fired. So that is question 2 here.
And with respect to the third question, when you are specifically talking about this, can you distinguish about what's caught up on the body-worn camera, and if then you're also using the typed statement in conjunction with that?
Sorry, could you ask that again?
Well, I just want to make sure when you're talking about the question about whether or not Officer Grubb would have had a clear view of Takaya turning the steering wheel to the right.
Yeah, but again, I'm going to object to the phrase of question. He can answer what he observed, but not what Officer Grubb observed.
I'll sustain as to that.
So when we're addressing this question, Dr. Bauer, can you distinguish as to what you observed when watching Officer Connor Grubb's video, and if you take into account his typed statement when watching that video?
Yes. So as we just talked about, the video evidence shows that Officer Grubb placed himself in front of the driver's side of the Takaya's vehicle and was in front of that vehicle when it started moving both times. We haven't seen it, and I should maybe play that. but in his body-worn camera footage, it captured the motions of Takaya actively. Well, first, we see the turn signal turn on, so we know that there was an indicator that was activated, and then we see her actively turning the steering wheel inside the car on that body-worn camera footage. Oh, wait, should we watch that?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull that up really quick. Let me just step ahead here. So this is, get this out of the way. Okay. So I'm just going to back up here and focus on the inside of the vehicle here. So looking at the steering wheel. So right now we see, I hope we can see it up there. It's a lot more contrast on the screen there. We see both hands. And then we step forward. Now hand is on the steering wheel. Left hand went down to her left side. I'm actually going to come over here just a little bit. See, this right hand is moving down on the steering wheel. And we see on the lower left that the turn signal all of a sudden is activated. So we know that there was some activation at that moment of the right turn signal. And at the same time, keep watching the steering wheel. We see the steering wheel being turned and turned and turned and turned. So there's a clear opportunity. So the camera captured, and I see it, and we can see it here, Takaya turning the steering wheel and cranking the tires to the right in this body camera footage.
And did you seeing that on Officer Grubb's video tie into the statement that you shared with us earlier from the typed statement of Officer Connor Grubb?
Yes.
And what was that tie-in?
Yes, just that he stated that the backdrop was the inside of the vehicle and her center of mass, that he was able to identify her and her center of mass. So the fact that captured on his body camera footage, which is right here, which is lower, and your eyes would have a higher vantage point, would imply that in his field of view.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustain.
Move to strike, Your Honor.
I don't believe you fully answered it at this time. You can't testify as to what he saw. You can testify as to what you observed on the videotape.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You may continue.
Yeah, so the video clearly shows her activating the steering wheel and turning the wheels
Is
to
there
the
a
right.
question, Your Honor? We have a question and answer situation.
Ask the next question.
Your Honor, I believe he was finishing the last question.
The last question was stricken because it was sustained.
It was sustained, so, but you can ask another
I'll
question.
finish the question.
Mr. Collins, ask another question.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. In reframing this, what is observable when you watch the body-worn camera of Officer Grubb?
Objection, asked and answered.
Overruled. He can answer.
And sorry, would you ask that again?
Let's just move on. Okay. With respect to these events that you are noting from observing Officer Connor Grubb's body-worn camera as well as the other body-worn camera, the Kroger video, are you able to set up any kind of a timing?
Yes.
And is the timing of events part of your analysis in this case?
Yes.
And why was that important for you to do?
Yeah, it's important when looking at questions that involve human performance. So whether there's anticipation involved, whether it's someone responding to a hazard, that we focus on timing because that involves the cognitive aspect of things. So not just mechanics of moving and forces acting on the body, but also the process that a person goes through when they're evaluating an environment, detecting a potential hazard, identifying what that potential hazard may be, deciding what to do about it, and then actually doing something about it. So that depends on the time frame.
And with respect to those issues, and specifically you brought up anticipation, is that something that is part of your education, your training, and your experience?
Yes.
Can you share it with us in what way?
Yeah, in human performance, in a lot of colleges, we mostly get exposed to it from a sports biomechanics standpoint. So looking at how do you know where an opponent in a tennis match is going to hit that next ball. When you look at the timing of those events, sometimes it's faster than most people could react if they had no knowledge. But instead, what you do is and what athletes do is they study the motion that they're watching just before that tennis player hits the ball. So to get some indication of where that ball is going to go. The same thing happens with baseball players. How do you know with as short a time as it takes for a ball to get from the mound to home plate, what other visual cues can the batter use, because it happens so fast, to know that that's going to be something that they should potentially swing at? Football players, all the time. How does a defender cover a wide receiver? They look at the body motions of the wide receiver and try to anticipate their next move based on a cue that they're going to see beforehand. So it's a very, very broad application in sports specifically, to be able to look at motion cues from somebody and anticipate what they're going to do next.
And you have training to do that?
Yes, through my academic background.
Your Honor, objection, may we approach?
You may.
Dr. Bauer, you were telling us examples of human performance and anticipation, I think when we went to sidebar. Um, Based upon your education, your experience, were you watching anything in the 4 videos based on your experience to look for signs of anticipation of movement of the car?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Yes.
Make the record known.
You may.
At this point in time, this witness has no police.
It was just a sidebar, outside of the presence of the jury. thing here. Do not discuss this case among yourselves. Do not permit anyone to discuss it with you or in your presence. It is your duty not to form or express an opinion on the case until it is finally submitted to you. About 10 minutes.
All rise.
You can step down if you want. Do you need to clarify the record?
Yes, once the witness leaves us to the court.
Okay. Are we on real time? My real time's not working. No, I'm thinking.
All rise.
Everyone can have a seat. Dr. Bauer, you're still under oath. Any further questions on behalf of the state?
Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Bauer, if we could then go to the video analysis that you performed, where you detail what you observed Officer Grubb's movements to be on August 24th, 2023.
Okay. I'm gonna pull up that video. Okay. So this is video footage from the two security cameras that were located at Kroger. So on the right-hand side, we've done is cropped in and focused on the area that was where the incident occurred. From the parking lot camera, and on the left is from the RX prescription walk-up camera. And so my observations of the video here and the timing of the incident, again, always with video events, we've got two videos to look at, but we'll focus on one first. And we'll just look over at the right-hand side here. Again, we see Officer Grubb standing in front of the vehicle. We see Sergeant Moynihan on the driver's side of the vehicle. We actually see a brake light activated on the vehicle. I'm just going to step forward here. And at this point here, so I've seen no vehicle movement whatsoever, but at this point in time, we see Officer Grubb drawing his firearm. So I'm just stepping back and forth so we can see this. So now, as he's drawing the firearm, I observed the car does a little lurch or moves forward slightly. At the same time that that vehicle is doing that lurch, we actually see Officer Grubb step forward with his left foot and reach out with his left hand. So keep watching the back and forth. The car starts and then it stops. So starts and then it stops. And we see the same thing now if we focus, get a little lower resolution on this side here, but I'm going to step backward. Step forward. We see him step forward and put his hand on the hood. And this is at the same time that the steering wheel is being turned. And we can tell from this video that the steering wheel is being turned, because if we look at the, here's the rim on the right front tire. And if I step forward, you can actually see that disappear. So we're just seeing the black from the tire. So we can actually see the tire rotating at the same time that we see same time that I see Officer Grubb step forward and reach his hand to the hood. So again, here's a much more zoomed in version here so we can see it. So we see the car has not moved. We see Officer Grubb draw his weapon, and as soon as, at the same time that that vehicle starts to lurch forward, we see him actually step forward and reach out to the hood with his vehicle, with his hand. So then from this point, we continue to step forward. The car then begins to move again and continuously. And at the time that it starts to move again, after he's put his hand on the hood, we see a change in his body. So he's more upright, holding the firearm to his right with his left hand on the hood. As the vehicle starts to move forward, we see him rotate slightly and crouch down, bending at the waist. So we'll just watch this a couple times just to go back. So this is the second time that the vehicle has moved, right here. Keep stepping. You move back and forth, just again staring at the right. I'm going to zoom in here so we can see it. We'll actually see some upward and downward movement, some bobbing movement of Mr. Grubb. You have to watch this a few times to see it. It's right there. There. So we see this bobbing movement. And that's consistent with the movement that we can see more clearly from behind of Officer Grubb actually taking steps, so walking. So as that vehicle is moving for the second time here in this continuous motion, we actually see him taking steps to the left, so sort of shuffle steps to his left, keeping pace with the vehicle as it's performing this maneuver, right up until the time at this point here, when the shot is fired. So let me back up again. So again, we see that he steps forward, and now he's actively stepping to his left. And I know this is an active step, so I'm going to point out something here. So the mouse is a little laggy. So here's his left leg, and left foot is down here. So notice in these 3 frames that we're looking at here, that foot doesn't move. That demonstrates that the foot has some force on it, the ground, that's preventing it from sliding around. And this happens multiple times. So here now we're going to see another step. And here now it's planted on the ground. So that left foot is on the ground. And we can see it's stationary in these frames. We can also tell it's stationary because we can see the car moving behind his leg, or sort of coming out from behind his leg as we're viewing it here. So, because we're starting to see that right headlight come to view, but without this left foot moving. And then at this point, and I'll show this other view here, we actually see in Officer Grubb's left arm a moment where he extends up or pushes up off of the hood, and this is happening at the same time that that shot happens. And it's easier to see that in this footage here. So if I back up, it is pixelated, but the more you look at it, the more you see. We can see here's his upper arm and then his forearm. And we'll see that change angle significantly here. So, and this is that same point. So if you watch his upper body move upright, we see his arms straighten. So that indicates that there's a push-off happening, a push-off up, and that's at the same time that the shot is fired. So through the whole sequence now, if we watch each camera footage here. So before the car moves, we've got, he draws his firearm, steps forward at the same moment that we see the vehicle start to move forward, and then it stops. And then it moves forward again while his hand is on the hood. We see this now more of a bending over, kind of ready position, and then essentially Officer Grubb stepping and keeping pace with the vehicle.
What Officer Grubb, he's claiming Officer Grubb is doing at that point in time.
Overrule as that question.
And then we can see from this frame that right after the shot's fired, he's on the driver's side of the vehicle. And same back to this view. And again, it's very pixelated, low resolution, but certainly good enough resolution and for us to be able to identify his motions. So again, steps forward, puts his hand on the hood, and now we actively see, or we see active stepping, keeping pace of the vehicle. And this is that moment where he's pushing off with his left arm, firing that shot, and he's on the driver's side of the vehicle. And just side note here that we also see Sergeant Moynihan keeping pace with the vehicle as it's going around the corner.
With respect to your video analysis in what your observations were of Officer Grubb's movements, is there anything about the body-worn camera of Officer Grubb or Sergeant Moynihan that also ties into what you just pointed out in the Kroger, both views from the RX walk-up as well as the parking lot?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one thing we know from Sergeant Moynihan's body-worn camera footage is that we don't get to see both feet from Officer Grubb. We see his right foot at some point, and we see it not on the ground. But we know that happens with the shuffle steps that are observed in the RX camera footage. We also think I pointed out earlier that at the moment that the shot was fired, we see Officer Grubb to the driver's side of the vehicle because we can see both headlights in the RX prescription camera footage.
Now, I think yesterday was a travel day for you. Is that correct, Dr. Bauer?
Yes,
And you were coming from where?
Seattle, Washington.
So once you arrived, were you provided with any simulations that had been obtained yesterday?
Yes.
And prior to your testimony today, had you reviewed the report of Dr. I think it's Desmoulins? I always said Desmoulins, but Desmoulins?
Yes, I did.
And when you originally would have gotten his report, did it include any simulations in it?
No.
Have you now seen simulations from Dr. Desmoulins?
Yes.
Okay. And were you able to take the simulations and then looking back at what you've just shown us with your observations of Officer Grubb's movement in the videos?
Yes.
Okay, so if you can share that with us.
Yeah, so this is the, I guess I wouldn't necessarily, from an engineering physics standpoint, call it a simulation. It's more of an animation, and there's a difference between those two.
What is the difference?
Simulation is based on mathematics and engineering principles, and typically based on data that you feed a program. For example, if we knew the speed of the car and the acceleration rate, you could plug that in and accurately represent that in the vehicle. Similarly, if the motion of a person was based on motion capture, so you've actually taken video of them, recorded it, and applied it to this person, that's based on real world data, versus an animation, which is something that is hand done or sort of key framed, so you move an arm in one frame and then move it 10 frames later and it'll move from point to point.
So when you watch this animation, can you share with us your thoughts with respect to what Officer Grubb's visible movements to you were compared to this animation?
Yes. The motions that we all just observed in the RX prescription walk-up camera are not represented in the animation that was provided by Dr. Desmoulins.
And how are you able to say that?
Essentially watching them. And I've been an animator longer than I've been an expert witness, so I'm very familiar with how this software works in creating animations, and especially animations for forensic purposes. And just watching this, I think it'll be very clear to see. One of the key points that clue me into how this is not representative of the video footage is that if we focus on just the left foot here, it was very clear in the RX prescription video footage, objective evidence, that we see steps being taken with that left foot. In this animation, it's completely static, so no movement whatsoever. This doesn't represent the objective evidence, not even close. Maybe the hand placement, but that's it. It doesn't represent what we see in the video evidence.
With with respect to the other aspect of the animation, you show us as well your disagreement with the animation versus the objective evidence of you watching the videos?
Yes, it's the same thing. We just see motions in the video footage that we don't see here. And I don't believe, we're not seeing up to the point where a shot was fired, but we know that there are multiple steps being taken, keeping pace with the vehicle that are not represented in this animation.
So with respect then to your opinions and observations, conclusions after observing these videos, do you have a timeline that you've shared, that you can share with us as to when the vehicle is stationary, moves forward, stops, and goes from there?
I do.
Okay, can you share that with us?
I would have to pull up my report. I don't have a slide that
Well,
contains
let
it.
me go to the issue of, as the vehicle moves forward, you talked about the step forward, the steps to the right. So the timing of this situation, just in a sequence, can you take us through this? Where are you starting the sequence?
Yeah, the sequence starts with the first observation of, not first observation, but my first observation of seeing input put into the vehicle. So that's with the initiation of turning the steering wheel from the footage from Officer Grubb's body-worn camera.
And then what were your observations of Officer Grubb after that initial event?
Yeah, so then we see, and I think we all just saw this, is that as that steering wheel is being turned, we see Officer Grubb pull his firearm.
With respect to the vehicle itself, in your training and your experience, can you share with us an opinion as to whether or not a body can stop a vehicle?
Yes, I can share that, and the body certainly will not stop the vehicle.
And why is that?
The mass of a vehicle would, and this vehicle in particular has a curb weight of 3,600 pounds, will certainly overpower a 180, 200-pound human.
And in your training, your education, your experience on biomechanics, do you have an opinion as to whether or not shooting the driver of a vehicle would stop the vehicle?
Overruled.
Yes, I do.
What is that opinion?
Yeah, if the vehicle's in motion and you shoot the driver or the operator of the vehicle, that vehicle will not stop unless some other force acts on it.
And that's a scientific opinion.
Yes.
Now, were you also asked to address how Officer Grubb sustained the wounds that were documented on him after the shooting incident?
Yes.
And again, did you use photographs and video to answer that question?
I did.
Can you show us what you used to answer that specific question?
We'll make the same objection as we did in the Baldwin hearing.
I'll note your objection.
Well, let me ask you this. What about your specific background in biomechanics and human performance allows you to study this question and give us an answer?
Yeah. First of all, the field of biomechanics is the study of anatomy and physiology plus engineering and physics. So starting very early on in college, and actually well before that in high school, I was a ski instructor and an inline skating instructor and a snowboard instructor. And you take basic first aid and you study wounds, wound types, how to heal, how to treat wounds. So my exposure to treating and observing and identifying wounds starts when I was 14 as a ski instructor, and then as an athletic trainer in high school. But in college, you get more exposure to anatomy and physiology, and specifically looking at injuries and looking at forces that cause injuries. And then in my 25 years in this work consulting in human injuries, I have unfortunately seen 100+ autopsy photos with wounds that are described by forensic pathologists, from bullet wounds to edge wounds. So I have,
Say descriptions.
I'll note your objection, but ask another question.
You were talking about your experience in college and what other experience do you have in asking the question as to how wounds might have been caused?
yeah, primarily from my academic background, and then looking at my 25 years in this field and investigating case after case after case, looking in the forensic pathology literature, looking at the peer-reviewed literature to understand what specific wounds are created with what specific mechanisms.
So did you observe in photographs that Officer Grubb had injuries to his arms?
Yes.
And did you look to any specific evidence to answer the question as to how those injuries would have been caused?
I did.
Can you share that with us?
Yes, I looked at, again, the objective video evidence in this case. I looked at the photographs first to identify the wounds that were being claimed, and I believe it was just the left arm. And then reviewed his body-worn camera footage, reviewed Sergeant Moynihan's body-worn camera footage, looking for the occasion where those wounds may have been created.
And so what are we seeing here? There are 5 images. Are the top 2 still images from a video?
Yes.
What do we see?
Yes, on the left, we see a screenshot from Sergeant Moynihan's body-worn camera footage. And on the right, we see a screen capture from Officer Grubb's body-worn camera footage. And this is the moment that Officer Grubb breaks out the driver's side window. And we can see his arm going directly into broken glass. So this is a very clear case of what caused the injuries to his left arm. Because we see this very portion of his arm and his left hand breaking through the glass.
So do you have an opinion in your training and experience to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty as to the cause of the wounds
Objection, Your Honor.
Let her finish the question.
to Officer Grubb's arms and hands?
Objection, Your Honor. May we approach?
You may,
I'm sorry. Would you like to rule?
if you want to approach. You may answer. If you know the question.
I might need that question again, I'm sorry.
The question was, in your training experience, do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty as to the cause of the injuries to Officer Grubb's arms and hands?
Yes.
And what is it?
It was at the moment that he broke out the driver's side window.
And moving on to injuries observable to the legs of Officer Connor Grubb, did you also examine video and photographs to answer the question of how those might have been caused?
I did.
And that was one of the questions that was posed to you,
Correct.
correct? So show us what you looked at. We need to hook your screen back up to answer that question.
Yeah, I received photographs of Officer Grubb. We have on the, terrible way to describe it, on the upper left, we have his right leg. On the upper right, we have the right knee and just below his right knee. On the lower left, we have his left leg. And on the lower right, we have a close-up version of his left kind of upper shin area. So if we look closer, and it's always, in injury biomechanics, we always say that the injuries serve as a signature to the event that caused it. So the injury is a fingerprint as to what happened. And there are 2 different types of wounds to his right knee here that I'm going to zoom in on here. There's one, come on close to his kneecap. And this is a laceration. So there's a skin tag, so it's a little skin flap, where we see sort of a teardrop shape here, where it's open on the left side, and then it's connected where my mouse is going right now. So that indicates that something sharp cut it and hit it from, sorry.
I'll note your objection.
And basically, this is his right knee, so it comes from right to left to basically tear that section of skin.
Again, objection, Your Honor.
Do you want to approach?
I mean,
You can continue.
We continue. All right, you were discussing this particular wound on the knee area.
Yeah, so I had just described my review and observations regarding this upper wound as being something that was cut and moving essentially from right to left. And then there's a lower wound just on the front of the tibia, so front of the top of the shin. And this is more consistent. This is a different type of wound. So this is more of a pressure friction type of abrasion wound. And we can actually see with the dry skin that's at the bottom here, that the skin was pushed from up here to down here. So it's basically, if someone were to kneel and move forward, that's what's going to cause this type of on concrete, so, or something that has some high texture or friction. So.
Did you then compare these photographs with any objective evidence being the video?
Yes.
And what was that?
Yeah, there were two potential interactions with Officer Grubb's right knee and a surface in this matter. And the two were either the front bumper of the vehicle, the Lexus, or the repeated times that we see him kneeling while treating Miss Young after the incident.
And did you also observe when watching the body cameras of Sergeant Moynihan and Officer Grubb a point where Officer Grubb fell to the ground near the Lexus?
Yes.
Okay. So with respect, you brought up the Lexus and the front of it. What information did you have to have an opinion as to whether or not the injuries that we observe in Connor Grubb came from the bumper of that Lexus or the front of the Lexus?
Yeah, we have photographs of the Lexus that were taken after the incident. And then I have the ability, like any accident reconstructionist, to just look at photos of an exemplar 2008 Lexus ES front bumper just to understand the anatomy of that bumper and determine if there's any feature of that bumper that could produce injuries that we're observing here on the knee.
So we talked about the right leg. Can you show us, before we talk about the front of the Lexus, the left leg injuries that were observed in the photographs?
Yeah, so here's the left leg. So now we're looking just below the knee here. And then we have two separate little punctate type abrasions. And again, this lower one here is more like a flap that is intact up here. This upper wound, we don't really get to see the details of it because of the blood here, but they're very small, punctate, meaning more like little punctures, which would be consistent with, again, that falling in the area where the glass had been broken out.
And with respect to your examination of the front of the specific Lexus in this case and your knowledge of that make and model, is there anything on the front of that bumper area, the front of the Lexus, that in your opinion would be the cause of these injuries?
No.
And what are you basing that opinion on?
My review of photographs of this specific Lexus in this incident and in general of an exemplar 2008 Lexus ES.
Lights on. Any cross-examination?
May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
It's here for a second. Paper, Bob, one second. May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
We met before, right, Dr. Bauer?
We did.
Thank you for being here, and I appreciate that. I just have a series of questions. Most of them are going to be conceptual, and I'd ask you to focus on the question, just answer the question, if that's okay, all right?
Okay.
Thank you so much. Now, I want to clear up a couple things. You submitted your first report, I believe, in August of 2025, correct?
I believe so,
Do
yes.
you have a copy of your report there?
I could pull it up on my laptop. I don't have a paper copy.
Would you prefer a paper copy? I have one if you'd like.
Yes, please.
I guess I should mark it for identification purposes only, correct, Your Honor?
Yes.
This will be X, and it's X. And for the record, may I approach you with this?
May.
I'm handing witness Dr. Bauer a copy. Could you take a look at that, please? X.
Okay.
And you also submitted another report, and I'll call this Y. No, wait,
I think you've already used Y.
Pure STBW. This is a copy of the November 11th report, right?
Thank you. Yes,
Okay. And I only have one of those, so.
got it.
And basically, they're the same.
You want us to make a copy of that?
No, that's okay. They're the same, correct? You prepared the report based on the prosecutor's engagement, correct? On August 1st.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand what you mean by they're the same.
I'll get there. When were you retained, sir?
Oh, I don't recall specifically.
You believe it was 2025?
I believe so, yes.
And what, the prosecutor asked you a few times about retained. What is your fee in a case like this, sir?
Yeah, I typically have a $4,000 retainer, and then I bill at $400 an hour.
$400 an hour. And how many hours have you put in so far in this case?
I don't know the number of hours I've billed to this.
Have you put bills in on this case?
I have.
What were the bills that you put in so far?
I don't know. I would have produced them, or they should have been produced, but I don't have the numbers on the top of my head.
So you took time, you spent hours, and you get paid, and you should get paid for your work, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
So when you got the materials, and you signed a fee engagement, correct?
I did.
$400 an hour, an initial of $4,500, right?
No, 4,000.
4,000 plus travel expenses, correct?
Correct.
plus food and hotels, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so you've submitted bills to be paid, and you don't know what those bills are?
No, I didn't study the bills before coming to trial today.
Okay, is it fair you put at least 10 hours of work into this case?
Yes.
How about 20 hours?
Yes, I would say at least 20 hours.
30 hours? Including today and including getting here last night, and working with the prosecutors and all the phone calls and all the back and forths.
Maybe.
So let's say 40 hours, right?
No.
Okay, 30 hours times $400 an hour is what, sir?
$12,000.
Plus travel expenses, correct? Plus your testimony today, correct?
Yes.
And you charge a different rate for in court.
Yes, I do.
And what do you charge for in court?
$600 an hour.
Okay, so you charge from the time you get to the courthouse, right?
Not typically. I charge for the time I'm sitting right here.
Okay, so far that's another $1,200, correct?
Yes.
Now, you submitted an initial report on August the 1st, 2025, correct?
Yes.
Okay. We had testimony on September the 30th of 2025. You appeared by Zoom.
Correct.
Then you submitted a supplemental report on October 23rd, 1 week before we started the trial, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And then you submitted another full report that I showed you on August the 11th, correct? Excuse me, November the 11th, 2025.
I believe there was, yes, another report with just a word change.
A word change. And that's what I meant, sir. The November 11th report is basically the same as your August 1st report, except for some typos and stuff like that.
Correct,
And
yes.
you take pride and you want it to be correct and you want things to be corrected there, correct?
Of course.
Absolutely. And you spent time to prepare this report and you put effort into it, and you're a professional and you give opinions, and so you want it to be correct, right?
Yes.
So in your first report, sir, on the August 1st report, could you go to page 4 of that? May I have the Elmo, please? You're taking a look at that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So on that, that's your first report, and those are your words and your typing, right?
Correct.
You got an arrow to a parking spot there, right?
I do.
That's the wrong parking spot, correct?
Very true.
Very true. And you're an expert getting paid that kind of money, and you've got an arrow to the wrong spot. You chose to put it there, correct?
I did. I put it in the area that was marked with the cones.
No, sir, you put it in an area that's wrong based on, when you compiled that, you would watch the videos, you'd see the photographs, you did everything, and you put it in the wrong spot.
I did.
You are 100% wrong then, correct?
Well, it is a parking space. It's not the parking space where the Lexus was located at the time.
Let me read the caption underneath. Photograph showing the parking space where Takaya was confronted before the incident, the location. So that's your writing, right?
True, and that photo does show the parking space where she was confronted before the incident. I mislabeled
Okay.
the actual parking space where she
So
was.
the arrow doesn't show it.
Correct.
Okay. So you like to use the term parking space in general. You think that the narrative goes to the parking space and not the arrow?
I guess in this
Well,
illustration and for my analysis, it doesn't matter.
in your analysis, it doesn't matter. You had a chance, however, to review that and correct it, right?
Correct.
And you sent another report on Tuesday, dated Tuesday, November the 11th, correct?
Correct.
I'll hand you Defendant's Exhibit W. Go to page 4, sir. You find this funny?
No, I just know where you're going with this, and I didn't correct the label.
So you reviewed that, though, to correct spellings and make sure everything, you knew you were testifying, right?
I did know I
And
was
the prosecutors
testifying.
told you about stuff that was going on, and you had testified before, right? Under oath, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't change it, right?
I didn't change it. I was changing the camera label, and I did note in my supplemental report the mislabeling of the parking lot. So I acknowledged that in my supplemental
Can you
report.
pull up your slides, please? I believe it's slide 13. If you go to it, you had that exact picture of the drone. Did you find the picture of the drone? So sometime between November the 11th, when you sent us another report, till this morning, you changed the label, correct?
Correct,
On that, for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
correct.
All right, thank you. You can put that back. And you don't remember when you were retained?
I don't.
Okay. And you've never been trained in any use of force aspect as a police officer, correct?
Correct,
You've never testified in a criminal trial involving a use of force, correct?
correct.
Now, you remember we spoke before under oath, correct?
Yes,
And you indicated there, and if you remember, fine. If not, I'll get it for you. You remember telling me, yes, I'm not speaking to use of force in this matter. That's not why you're here.
true.
And you would agree that your testimony is about what you observed, correct?
Correct.
How many times do you think you've watched those videos?
It depends on what you call watching videos.
In order to prepare your report, in order to prepare for testifying today, how many times have you watched the videos?
I would say 20 to 30, but it really depends on how much time is spent watching them and going back and forth.
And you go back and forth, right?
Yes,
And you go slowward back and slowward forward, correct? And so you take time and you're in a controlled setting, right? Looking at that, your office or home office or something like that, correct?
correct.
And you pay attention to the frame by frame aspects, correct?
Yes,
That's not what Connor Grubb observes, is it?
no,
He doesn't have that time, correct?
correct.
Absolutely zero. So your analysis is in a controlled setting, time, looking at it 20, 30 times and looking at pictures, correct?
Yes,
You couldn't complete your analysis in 5 seconds, could you?
no,
You couldn't complete it in 1.66 seconds, could you?
no,
Now, we also spoke before under oath, and you remember saying the statement, I'm not saying he didn't have a subjective belief that he was going to be run over. Do you remember saying that?
I believe that sounds consistent with something I would say.
Okay. If you'd like to see the transcript, I'll give it to you. I assure you those are your words. Okay. And you also had Connor Grubb's statement, correct?
Yes,
And in his statement, he tells you what his subjective belief is, right? He thought he was going to get run over,
yes,
correct?
yes,
And you're not saying that that wasn't in his mind, right?
true.
Now, you talked a little bit about the videos and the difference. My understanding is, and please go slow with me because I'm not very good at this in terms of the photography and stuff. The Kroger videos are basically at 15 frames per minute, or per second.
You got it.
Body worn cameras at 30 frames per second.
Correct.
So it's, the difference is the Kroger videos, something might be missing in those difference between the 15 slides per second.
It's every other frame, so twice as many frames in the body-worn camera.
And in your timeline that you did for the prosecution in your report, you indicate that there's a period of time to respond of 1.53 seconds based on a certain situation, correct?
I'd have to look and see what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's on page 17 of your, or excuse me, page 15, item 17 at the bottom. And I'm just using this as an example.
Okay.
Do you see where you use 1.53 seconds?
Yes, but how did you represent that?
I'm just saying, you chose a time of 1.53 seconds, whatever it delineates, right?
Yes,
Whatever it shows.
yes,
So in the Kroger videos, the 1.53 seconds, the difference between that and the body-worn cameras is twice as many slides for the body-worn cameras as the Kroger, if both cameras are capturing that same 1.53 seconds.
true.
So if you take 1.53 and you multiply it times the difference, right, double. So if there's 23 slides in 1.53 seconds from Kroger, there would be 46 frames from the body-worn camera video, correct?
Yes,
So the Kroger frames are missing basically half in that span of time frame, just as an example.
Yes.
You would agree with me? Okay.
Yep.
Now, are you aware, sir, that there was not a laser scan done of the parking spot that you misidentified of where this happened?
Yeah, I didn't see a laser scan performed in that area.
Laser scans are important to you because it helps you get to more exact details and things of that nature because of differences between photographs and cameras and stuff like that, correct?
Laser scans can be important, yes.
And so you realize, and I'm not sure if the prosecutors told you, but the reason that Dr. DeMullen did an animation is because there was no laser scan, and he was trying to represent what might be shown. He wasn't saying that's exactly what was happened, but if you had a laser scan from there, you would be able to make a precise animation, so to speak. Would you agree with that concept? And all the other things put into play as well. But that's what they do with laser scans, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I do that with laser scans, but the laser scans can happen after the fact. And depending on what features you're using to match, you know, oftentimes I will go do laser scans on a case that happened 2 years ago and make it work, so.
Absolutely. And just because you didn't do an initial laser scan that time at that place, you can do a laser scan down the road after the fact, and it's still pretty good, as long as you can sync things up with cameras, audios, and stuff like that to do the positioning, correct?
Yeah, you don't sync the laser scans with cameras, but just the geometry. And that's something that Dr. DeMullen could have done himself.
Right, and to put the vehicle back in that parking spot, they could have then ran a laser scan and with all the measurements and things like that, correct?
They could have, but they would have to basically do the analysis to make sure they're putting the vehicle back in the exact spot that it,
Or as close as possible, right?
well, you want it exact. So that's why going after the fact and using the video evidence combined with laser scans that can be taken anytime, as long as the building hasn't moved, as long as
Absolutely.
trees.
But here the car had moved from the original spot.
Yeah, so there's no getting a laser scan of that area or putting the car back into that parking spot to do a laser scan would be creating new evidence, because you don't guarantee that that vehicle's going back to the exact spot that it was.
Absolutely, but taking a laser scan of a car parked up against a Kroger wall where the shot didn't happen, that's creating new evidence as well, correct?
It's documenting the evidence of the incident and arrest position of the vehicle. So it's truly preserving the scene for all of us to be able to look at.
Pictures, just like videotapes and everything like that.
Yes.
Now, when we talked before, you agreed with me that during the videos that you showed, that at some point, both of Connor Grubb's feet came off the ground, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you swore an oath of that, and also you indicated that both his feet were off the ground while he fired the shot before he slid off the vehicle.
Yes, we pointed out that at that moment that both feet are off the ground is the same time that it's essentially a jump plus a push off with his arm to shoot.
Okay. But again, you agreed with me under oath that both his feet were off the ground at some point.
Yes.
And you read his statement where he indicated both of my feet were off the ground.
Yes, and that was stated, though, applying to before he fired the shot.
I didn't ask when it was applied. I'm saying Connor Grubb indicated in his statement that as I fired, both feet were off the ground.
I don't recall if that's what he specifically said.
But you understand the concept that both his feet were off the ground, correct?
At some point, yes.
Right.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Okay.
I'm handing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 66 prior. I just have 66 in here. This is, the government put this in evidence, that's his statement, correct?
Yes,
All right. There was also follow-up questions that were part of that too, we'll get to that, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and you read those, correct?
Yes,
And so you would agree with me that in that paragraph on page 3, suddenly my feet were completely off the ground and my waist was on the hood of the car and my body was being carried as she continued accelerating, okay? That was in his statement, correct?
yes,
And that matches, you indicated, yes, at some point, both his feet were off the ground, correct?
yes. Both his feet were off the ground at some point, but I wouldn't agree that he was being carried or that his waist was. So I just want to clarify based on what you asked me and what you had just read to me.
We were focusing on the feet, whether or not they're off the ground. Okay. And in terms of, in that situation, when someone's in front of the vehicle and there's movement, whether they're carried or whether they're, you say, pacing alongside or stepping alongside, a person could trip, correct?
True.
A person could fall backwards, correct?
Yes,
And at whatever rate, 2 miles, 5 miles, 10 miles, that car, that 3,600-pound car can cause a broken foot, a broken toe, a broken leg, all sorts of things if you got caught underneath, right?
yes,
And so there is no doubt that that car in moving could be, cause a serious physical injury. Whether you're on top, whether you're next to it, whether you're in front of it, whether you're underneath it, correct? There's a potential risk for that.
not if you're next to it, but the others, yes.
A bad adjective by myself. Okay, on your report, sir, if you'll go to that, get the exact page for you. So the first thing, the prosecutor asked you about, you indicated that the things on his knees or shins might have come from him kneeling on the ground, correct?
Correct.
If you would go to page 19, figure 12. Can I have the elbow, please? Now, that's a picture there of him kneeling on the ground, correct?
Yes.
You don't see any glass in that area, do you?
No.
And you don't see any glass. And when you break a window, okay, the dynamics, or whatever you want to call it, physics, in that situation, the window goes inside, correct? The damaged glass.
Not all of it.
Not all of it, but most of it. I mean, if you hit this way, most of it's going to go in that way, correct?
It depends on the type of window and the motion that's coming back out when you remove your arm. And we see a lot of glass on the ground in his footage.
You use that slide to indicate that he was kneeling on his right knee, and he may have got those abrasions, or what you call them, while he was kneeling on the ground.
The bottom one, the one that's on his shin, not the cut that's on his knee.
Right. But, so on the shins, you think he may have got that from kneeling there, even though there's no glass there or anything like that, correct?
True, and we see him kneel multiple times, so this isn't just a one-off.
Who do you think knelt more, he or Sergeant Moynihan, based on your review?
I don't know.
Do you know how many times Sergeant Moynihan knelt?
No.
Is it fair to say that Sergeant Moynihan did the majority of the life-saving measures, and you would be required to kneel in order to do that, versus my client?
I don't, again, know how much he kneeled or whether his mechanics were the same. I would expect the more up and down you do, the more exposure the more basically standing to kneeling, the more exposure you would have to causing these abrasions versus just sitting there on your knees
So
performing.
if you were to go back and watch, you would be able to determine how many times Sergeant Moynihan was kneeling, correct? Or in that
Correct.
area.
Yes.
Now, one of the pictures that you dealt with regarding this situation, were you able to review pictures of Sergeant Moynihan as well as Connor Grubb after the fact? I think you talked about their body-worn camera, things of that nature, correct?
Yes.
All right. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
May-
I'm going to hand you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit J and K. May I approach the witness?
Anything?
If you'll take a look at these.
Thank you.
And you've reviewed these before, correct?
Yes.
And that's a fair and accurate copy of the original.
Yes.
May I have the Elmo, please? It's on. All right, that's a picture of Connor Grubb, correct?
Correct.
On Defendant's Exhibit J. Lower right is blood, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You don't see any ripping or tearing of the pants there, correct?
Correct.
Page 2 of that exhibit is in fact a closer shot of that. You see the blood, correct?
Yes.
See the blood on the other aspect of his left knee, correct?
I do.
Okay. Now, Defendant's Exhibit K, that's a picture of Sergeant Moynihan, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You see the blood on Sergeant Moynihan's right knee there?
Not, unfortunately, not because of the light, the glare we have on there, I don't see it.
What's down?
Page 2, maybe that helps a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's a little too dark.
Put the lights back.
Unfortunately, I don't see it in that.
May I approach?
Thank you. Yes,
You see blood on there and then a closer look.
I do.
Kind of the same spots as Connor Grubb, correct?
Yes.
And if I told you that Sergeant Moynihan was interviewed by a fire technician, a paramedic, and asked if he had any injuries to his shins?
Basis? Approach? Rephrase it then.
Would it shock you, or wouldn't you expect Sergeant Moynihan to have the same type of injuries from kneeling in the glass area and the whole area that Connor Grubb would?
No.
Because
I don't know what his mechanics were, and I don't know what he would call an injury, if he would call an abrasion an injury. And they could have different tolerances in their skin in general, so they're
you
different.
realize that he was asked if he had any abrasions or injuries like that by a paramedic who's trained in injuries.
I don't recall.
He did, and he said, "I don't have any." Connor Grubb was asked the same thing, and he showed his injuries. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Sergeant Moynihan wasn't contacted or hit or struck or whatever you want to call it by a car, correct?
Correct.
Connor Grubb was, correct?
There's question to that, actually, because he's actively stepping with the vehicle. There's no actual objective evidence that shows his shins get hit by the vehicle.
Sir, you point blank, the last time we had a hearing under oath, said, yes, there was contact by the car to him.
Right.
So are you saying that, did the car come into contact with Connor Grubb or not, Dr. Bauer?
Yes, but we're specifically talking about his
It's a yes or
knees
no
and
question,
shins.
sir. It's a
Don't
yes-
speak over each other.
It's a yes or no question, sir.
May I ask that again, please?
You swore under oath at a prior time that, yes, the car came into contact with Connor Grubb's lower extremities.
Correct.
Now, you mentioned on direct to the prosecutor about a fall that my client took, that maybe the injuries were from a fall, correct?
Correct.
May we have Ms. Stevens's? And you watched his body-worn camera with regards to whether or not he fell, and you watched Sergeant Moynihan's body-worn camera to whether or not he fell, correct?
Correct.
And watch this video, sir, doctor, and tell me if you ever, tell me what you see. First, you'll see his hands hit the ground. One second. There, stop. You see his hands hit the ground, right?
Correct.
His knees or shins didn't hit the ground, right?
Well, we don't capture it on the video footage for sure, but he's pushing himself up when we see his hands on the ground.
Can you back it up, Ms. Stevens? You're saying he's flat on the ground, pushing himself up? At what point do you see his knees or anything touching the ground there, sir?
We don't. That's what I just said.
You don't, and if you'll keep letting it run, Ms. Stevens? So when you talk about a fall, you're creating that fall. You didn't see him fall to the ground. The video shows that his hands hit the ground, not his knees or shins.
That's a fall. We see him fall. So you have to brace himself with his hands.
Here we go with the wordplay. You testified on direct that the injuries to the knee were probably from the fall that he took landing on his knee, correct?
Correct.
You just saw video evidence that you're an expert in, that you do all the time, and you're an expert photography and certified in this. He never touches the ground with his knees, correct?
That is not correct. We don't see it in the video footage, but based on his mechanics of getting up, there's certainly that capability. But also, there's nothing.
It's a yes or no question. Do you see his knees or anything on the ground there?
I already answered that question to say no, the video footage does not actually capture his knees on the ground.
Correct. But you somehow tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, oh yeah, he got those injuries when he fell on the ground. You make it up. You don't have any visual evidence to support that claim, correct, Dr. Bauer?
That's not correct.
What video evidence do you have that his knees or shins touch the ground there?
That we know he's getting up from a fall and that those
No, he fell on his hands, sir, from that video.
wounds aren't consistent with anything that's on the front bumper of the Lexus.
Hypothetically, if you only had video evidence that showed he was on the ground, but we do have video evidence that shows there was contact between a 3,600-pound car and his lower body, correct?
We have evidence that he interacted with the Lexus, yes.
Now it's interactive. So you want these ladies and gentlemen of the jury, all the videos that they've seen in this case, to believe that the car didn't hit my client. Is that what you're trying to tell these ladies and gentlemen of the jury right now, doctor, as an opinion person?
I didn't say that.
Okay, you just implied that because you used the term interacted. We interact verbally, right?
True.
You don't interact physically, do you?
I would disagree with that.
You're welcome to it. You keep using the term in your report, perceived threat, right?
I believe so, yes.
You use it multiple times, right? I'll give you a specific. Page 14, number 16. At the bottom, you talk about how a perceived threat starts and ends. You see that?
Oh, yes.
Okay. You realize in use of force situations that a perceived threat can turn into an actual threat, right?
Yes.
A perceived threat might.
Objection. Can we approach?
What you may. May proceed, Brandon.
You may.
Thank you. Dr. Bauer, if I'm standing here with a knife at you, that could be a perceived threat, right? If I charge forward towards you with a knife, that's an actual threat. You would agree?
Yes.
Someone with a gun here, that's a perceived threat. Drop the gun, drop the gun. If they raise the gun, that's an actual threat, correct?
Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily agree with what you're calling a perceived threat, especially I live in a state, or if there's an open carry and someone has a gun, is it a perceived threat that they just have a gun?
If the gun is raised towards someone, that's a perceived actual threat, correct?
Right.
A stationary car is not an actual threat, right?
Correct.
A car moving, as you indicated on direct, that the car moved towards Connor Grubb, correct?
Yes.
A car coming towards someone is no longer not a threat or perceived threat. It can be an actual threat, correct, sir?
True.
When his hand is on the hood, the first time it's placed on the hood based on your video analysis, correct? There's a time when Connor Grubb places his hand on the hood.
Correct.
Subsequently, you said there's more load or force that's pushed down, and you see the hood go indentation, correct?
Yes.
Showing that there's some kind of force on the hood or load being managed, correct?
True.
Okay, so in that situation, you agree that the shot is fired while his left hand is using load in the center of the hood.
Yes.
And the weapon is over here, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so he's not on the right side of the thing. His left hand body is in the center of the hood, correct?
No, he's definitely on the side of the vehicle.
The question is his left hand on the center of the hood depressing it?
The left hand is depressing the hood, yes.
In the center?
I don't know if it's the geographic center of the hood, but certainly in the body of the hood.
Close to the center, correct?
I would have to take a look.
Well, it's in your report if you'd like to take a look. You put it up on the screen a bunch of times.
Yeah, I'm looking at the screenshot when we see the bullet strike, and his hand does not look to be in the center of the hood.
May I throw it there?
Okay.
May I have the elbow, please? What you just testified to was you don't think that that hand is near the center of the hood. Take your time now. I don't want you to do it in 5 seconds or 1.6. Take your time. Where's the hand, sir?
It's on the hood. From this view, we can't tell. And I guess, what do you mean by the center of the hood? Along the center line?
Sir, is it
Line of the
on the
hood?
left
Do
side
not
of the,
speak over each other.
watch the pen. Is it on the left side of the hood?
Again, I would want to review the video footage.
Because you have the luxury of re-reviewing the video footage, right? But when you look at this picture, it's not on the left side of the hood, it's not on the right side of the hood, it's near the center of the hood. You can answer the question truthfully. You don't have to review it. It takes common sense to look at that, right?
I don't agree with you. Actually, in image analysis, where you have perspective distortion from a fisheye video
Now it's image
camera.
analysis. Now,
Objection, Your Honor, argumentative with this witness.
I'll sustain that.
thank you.
Thank you.
You don't have a PhD in engineering, correct?
True.
The body-worn camera, as you said, is placed at a lower eye, spot than his eyes, correct?
True.
You analyze everything after the fact to look at objective movements, correct?
True.
And you realize that Connor Grubb never saw the video or heard anything before giving a statement, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. He didn't get to see all these things and analyze the pictures and stuff before he gave a statement. He gave a statement beforehand based on what he remembered, correct?
Correct.
Objection? Gave a statement beforehand?
Before watching the video.
That was unclear.
Then he was given the opportunity to watch the video and listen to the video, right?
I believe so.
In your report, you indicate that you didn't hear any screeching of the tires or anything like that, right?
True. I believe that's true.
Now, the lead case agent, Special Agent Douglas, testified that after he reviewed it multiple times, he heard a tire screech. Are you saying he is incorrect or lying?
I believe just incorrect.
Okay. My client got a chance to listen to it, and the second part of his statement says, after reviewing the body-worn cameras and listening to it, I realized I didn't hear the squealing of the tire. Do you think he's incorrect as well?
All right, he stated that he did not hear the squealing of the tire.
He gave a statement, right, you with me? Then they had him review the body worn camera stuff, and he said, I've had the chance to review it. I realized I didn't hear the tire squeaking. I didn't hear it, but I hear it on the audio. Is he lying?
I'm just looking at my report on that section here.
You don't have to look at reports, sir. I'm letting you know. My point is, the lead case agent they put on the stand testified the other day that he heard the screeching of the tires or swinging of the tires, however you want to categorize it. My client heard that. All I'm asking you is, you were saying it, you didn't hear that.
Correct. They are audio signals that are different than tire squeaks and could have a very different explanation.
So it's interactions, audio signals. A couple more things and I'll be done, Your Honor. And when you reviewed my client's statement, and especially the question and answers that went to him, you knew why he took the position he did, correct?
What do you mean, the position?
Sustain that.
Use of force, he's not a use of force expert.
He can read. Sir, one of your conclusions.
What was the question again? Re-ask
The
the question.
question is, based on my client's statement and the answers that he gave, his words told you why he took a position in front of the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you had an issue of why, placing him in front of the vehicle. He told you those words, correct?
What do you, I guess I don't understand what you say you had an issue. What do you mean by that?
Sir, no one's disputing that he placed himself in front of the vehicle, okay? You were able to read why he placed himself in the vehicle, correct?
Yes.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Okay.
And nowhere in his statement, sir, does it say that he saw a turn signal, correct?
True.
And based on where the body-worn camera is and him leaning on the hood, it may be difficult to see the blinker over there, right?
Agreed.
And if I told you that in the history of the BCI investigative packet here, not one person sees a turn signal, but you were able to slow it down and coordinate it and show that a turn signal's on there, correct?
I don't follow the correct, I saw it, yes, but I don't follow anything you said before that.
And we thank you for that. But my point is, based on Connor Grubb's positioning and with a fisheye lens, the eyes are going to see something different than what the body camera shows, depending on where your head is and where your attention's at.
Eyes will see something different, yes. The eyes will see something different, actually have a wider field of view than the cameras do, but
And the machine doesn't have to interpret what it's seeing, right? It just records it.
true,
The brain and the mind has to interpret it.
yes.
Dr. Bauer, that's all the questions I have for you right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any redirect?
Dr. Bauer, let's start with the fall. After the window was broken out. In addition to the body-worn camera of Officer Grubb and Sergeant Moynihan, did you not also have the statement of Connor Grubb himself about falling to the ground?
I did.
May I print the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
This is State's Exhibit 66, the type statement of Connor Grubb, page 4. In the top paragraph is Connor Grubb describing attempts to break out the driver's side window. At the top.
Okay.
Okay, then, what does he say starting with here?
I walked around the pillar and tried to get her out of the car. However, her foot was still on the gas pedal, and as I attempted to get her out, the car started moving forward again, and I fell to the ground.
So you have the defendant's own words that he fell to the ground at the time the window was being broken?
Yes,
And is there objective evidence when you watch the body-worn cameras of both Moynihan and Grubb that Connor Grubb fell to the ground at the time that this window had been broken.
Yes.
Now, you were asked a lot of questions about getting paid. Are you familiar with Dr. Jeffrey Desmoulins?
Yes.
And would you expect that he's also getting paid for his work?
Yes.
And you made a comment about, when you were asked about this scan, why it wasn't done at the original spot. You made a comment that you believe Dr. Desmoulins could have done that. Why would you say that?
Yeah, because if you're doing this, the whole point, if you want to try to recreate something and actually determine the accurate position of a person in a space, we go through this process called camera matching with photogrammetry. So it's the same process people do to incorporate CG into movies. So you have to be able to know what the geometry is of the area and compare that to the video footage of the area to create a virtual camera that matches the actual point of view of the real camera. And as long as big static features stay the same, so as long as there's a building that we see in the security camera footage is still there, and as long as maybe a few trees are still there to use as landmarks, I could go there with my laser scanner today and scan that geometry and perform that analysis. Dr. Desmoulins could do the same thing with a laser scanner and perform that same analysis. So it didn't need to be, it's not something that would have been needed to be done that day or that night even.
But in this case, was it necessary for you to have a first scan to examine the movements of Officer Grubb?
No,
Why not?
because we have video, very clear video evidence of that.
Now, you were also asked about the timing of your reports, and I want to ask about, you wrote an initial report,
Yes,
and then upon receiving a report written by Dr. Desmoulins, did you then issue a supplement report in response to his report?
yes,
And in that October report, did you note that you had made an error in the report about the parking spot?
I did.
And so then, getting ready to come to court, did you correct the errors typographically, changing parking lot camera to, it was front entrance camera to parking lot camera?
Yes,
And did you fail to update one of your figures?
I did.
And did you make it correct before you testified before this jury?
Yes.
Did any of that change your conclusion?
No.
And when you identified front entrance video in your original report, did you specifically list that Bosch file name?
Yes.
And in fact, that was to the parking lot video.
Correct.
So you correctly identified the file name, but did you incorrectly identify parking lot versus front entrance?
Yes.
Okay, but you fixed that in your supplement in October as well as your November 11th report.
I did.
And you were asked about whether or not both feet were off the ground, but in what sequence are you referencing when you agreed to that?
Yeah, right at the sequence that's just before the shot. So right as we observe Officer Grubb coming around the driver's side front corner and firing the shot.
Was his torso on the front of the car at that time?
At that time, he actually pushes off with his left arm.
And what's the sequence of pushing off with the front with his hand versus the feet coming off the ground?
Same.
And is that different than the steps you described to us?
Yes.
Okay, and tell me then, when you're talking about feet off the ground, specifically the sequence of that.
Yeah, so both feet off the ground are observed again after, so we see him stepping, keeping pace with the vehicle, and then we see a push with his arm, both feet come off the ground at the same time that the shot happens as he's now coming off the driver's side of the vehicle.
But that's after he had stepped forward and placed his left hand on the hood of the car.
Correct.
Okay. You're also asked about page 15 of your report. May I approach the witness again?
You
Your
may.
Honor? Okay, this is page 15. You have it in front of you.
I do.
And you were asked about one of the times in this chart that you listed. And I want to explain, when you're asked about 1.533, I don't think there was a context to make that an understandable time. So where does the number that Mr. Collins asked you about the 1.533. Give us the context of that.
Yeah, that was the time that elapsed from the time I observed the gun being aimed at Ms. Young to the time the gun was fired.
But that's not the first timing that you list in a chart on page 15, is it?
Correct.
So what timing did you start from?
So I started,
I'll check, it's outside the cross. The 1.53 was just a number to a math question.
Overruled.
yeah, I started with the indication, the turn signal being active. So the first sign seeing the blinker, basically.
And then you listed other observable incidents, and you could take the time in between those observable incidents.
Yes.
So just to make clear, what was the 1.533 you were asked about?
So that was, again, the time from I observed the gun being aimed at Ms. Young to the time the gun was fired.
But if you go back to the activation of the front turn signal, what is the total time between events to the shooting?
5.13 seconds.
I also wanted to allow you to clarify on page 19 of your report an issue of screeching. I think it's in paragraph 24.
Okay.
Specifically, did you say that you don't hear audible tire screeching?
Yes.
Paragraph 24.
Yes.
Did you go on to say there were sounds that you heard?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I wrote that there are 3 sounds recorded on the audio tracks of both body-worn cameras that are short, audible beeps or squeaks, but their cause and origin cannot be determined. And I also looked at the timing between those.
Which was what?
From the first and second sound, there was, between those first 2 or 0.4 seconds. Then the time between the second and the third sound was 0.6 seconds.
And in your work, you do accident reconstruction that involves motor vehicles, is that right?
Yes.
And so is screeching something a term that comes up,
Yes.
and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, typically it means friction between the tires and the road and a rapid acceleration.
And do you dispute that screeching applied to what you observed in the body-worn cameras?
Yes.
Why?
Because you would observe that in the motion of the vehicle.
And what would the motion vehicle have to have been?
You would see in that time frame where those beeps or squeaks are heard, you would see some lurching of the vehicle or rocking of the vehicle.
Do you see in many of those videos the hard turn to the right of the tires by Takia Young?
Yes.
And in your experience, could that cause a screeching sound, just the turn?
No.
Okay. Did you see the rapid acceleration required for screeching?
No.
I have no further questions.
All right, Dr. Bauer, thank you so much. Just take wherever you go. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our lunch break. Do not discuss this case among yourselves. Do not permit anyone to discuss it with you or in your presence. It is your duty not to form or express an opinion on the case until it is finally submitted to you. If you can be back about 1:15, we'll try and get started at 1:30.
All rise.